Hello, I am Paul Oswald, and I'm here to explain to you why spanking your children should be an acceptable form of discipline. According to Sean Williams, our destinies are determined by decision making. Children have the option to obey or face the consequences, and they should know that the consequences hurt. Most of us have had some kind of experience with spanking, whether it be on the receiving end as children or on the giving end as adults. I'm here to inform you that spanking is not a form of abuse, but just a form of corporal punishment. I was spanked as a child, and what spanking is, according to thefreedictionary.com, is a number of slaps to the buttocks delivered in rapid succession as for punishment. Now that you have the basic idea of what spanking is, I'd like to take a look at the effects of spanking and why it needs to be considered an option. Sweden and 30 other countries have put a corporal punishment ban in the households of their nations. And Jason Fuller, who is a professor at Akron and studies law, has done a study over there. And he says after a decade of the ban, rates of physical child abuse in Sweden has risen to 3 times the U.S. rate, and that children under 7 endured an almost 6-fold increase in physical abuse. And Robert Lazar, who studies at Oklahoma State University, who did the study with Mr. Fuller, said that when used correctly, spanking leads to lower defiance and lower aggression in children compared to 10 to 13 other forms of discipline, including timeout. Spanking has also shown decreased rates in criminal activity compared to children that have not been spanked. In an article, the science and statistics behind spanking suggest that laws allowing corporal punishment are in the best interest of the children. It says that with spanking bans have come increased rates of child abuse, aggressive parenting, and youth violence. But criminal records suggest that children raised under a spanking ban are much more likely to be involved in crime than other children that are not involved in a spanking ban. And accordingly, almost 30 years after Sweden became the world's first country to ban, 6 out of 10 Swedish children now feel vulnerable at school. Just as many have been victims of youth violence. Another reason that spanking should be considered as a form of punishment is what the Bible has to say. In Proverbs 23, verses 12 through 14, it states that, "Apply your heart to instruction and your ears to words of knowledge. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you punish him with the rod, he will not die. Punish him with the rod and save his soul from death." So the Bible clearly states that parents should be responsible and diligent spanking children. The Focus on Family Reports says to be open-minded when to using spanking as a discipline option. LaShawn Williams states that there are 8 reasons to spank children. The first one being love, just as the Bible states. You have to love your child enough to be able to spank them. You are their parent first and their friend second. Number 2, you want to be respected. You don't want to be a pushover. You need to be feared is to be respected sometimes. And your children should be weary of going against your rules. Number 3, you want them to make good decisions. You don't want them just always running over you because you're not willing to spank them. Sometimes they just won't listen and they need the spanking. Number 4, you want them to have self-control. When you're aware of what is on the other side is making a poor decision, it is easier to exercise restraint. Number 5, you want them to be accountable. When you're aware every decision that has an outcome is good or bad. Every decision that a child makes is either good or bad. Sometimes they are going to make bad decisions, and it is your job to give them punishment for their decision. Number 6, you want to set standards. You need to have rules. Not all the time is a child going to need a spanking for something little, but on some cases, spanking needs to be an option. Number 7, you see strengths, not weaknesses. Western parents seem to assume fragility rather than strength. Spanking your child properly is not going to damage their self-esteem. Remember, spanking is not a form of abuse. Spanking is used just to punish. And 8, sometimes they just need it. When timeout, talking, and taking away toys doesn't work, sometimes spanking is the only option. So let's kind of recap what we went over. There are three reasons that I think that spanking should be used. One is the research that is done by Mr. Fuller and Lazar about the spanking bans and the criminal activity, and also what the Bible has to say. Thank you for listening.